Great. Well, hello. Today I have here with me Dr. Anna Roth, and we are going to talk about anxiety. And I reached out to Dr. Roth because I saw a video that she posted on Instagram about just how a lot of people, especially in Minnesota at this moment in time, are feeling that anxiety level really starting to go up. And she posted some tips, actually 5 tips in particular, for how to deal with that anxiety. And this is a topic I'll just say that I've been wanting to write about for some time because there is a very distinct connection between anxiety and menopause. I personally experienced it. I've had a couple of bouts with it myself. I have so many friends that have experienced it as well. So this is something I've wanted to write about for a while, but I feel like this moment in time is really the right moment in time because, like I said, I feel like so many of us are grappling with that. So, with that long introduction, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And I will do my best to give any helpful advice or kind of just speak to what my experience has been working with my clients, my experience being a Minnesotan, and then kind of that paired with my 20 years of experience as a psychologist, and a person and a woman. So we'll see. I'll try to be as helpful as I can.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, like I said, I reached out to you in particular because I saw the video that you posted on Instagram. Maybe you posted it elsewhere too, but I saw it on Insta. And in there you said, look, for a lot of us right now, it's feeling hard. It's feeling like the world's coming in on us. It's feeling that anxiety levels going up. There are 5 things that I tell my clients, not just today, but in general, that they can do to address that. So I was hoping you could kind of recap those 5 things and kind of what prompted you to post that video and put it out there when you did.
That's so funny because I actually have not been online for quite some time. I started my practice. I kind of hopped on social, found that it was a useful teaching tool, found that it kind of generated some business. And then I had an instance of a kind of a serious health issue, and then I had a baby. And so I just kind of went dark, and focused on, my family and my son, and I just now, my son is 2, and I kind of am getting my own bearings again. I was like, oh, what the heck? Like, I'm just going to try to pop back on Instagram. And I was in my garage, in the car, or not in my garage, in my driveway, in the car. And I was like, I'm just going to try to help, because I think that we're all feeling this sense of like, what can I do? I have to do something. Like, I have to do something for my state, for my community, for people I care about, for the injustice. I have to do something. And so I asked the question of like, what am I uniquely positioned to do? What I am uniquely positioned to do is to share my expertise and education and experience to try to be helpful in this moment. So that is where it came from. And I just kind of spoke from my heart about like, this is how I would tell you to cope right now. And I've never gotten as much of a response as I have to that video. So it's clearly resonating, and for good reason, because everyone, I think, in this country, many people are really stressed, to put it mildly. And Minnesotans are in a unique position right now because we have been, oh man, just kind of repeatedly traumatized since, George Floyd and the pandemic. And then, we couldn't even catch our breath from the Annunciation shooting before we're processing another large scale trauma. So that's a piece that I want to speak to you and to anyone reading this or watching this, that is unique to us in this state. And then there's added pieces if you're a woman or if you're dealing with, menopause or perimenopause on top of all of this. So I can come back to that. But to answer your question about those 5 tips, let's see if I can remember them. Because when you're stressed, your memory doesn't work as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let me see. So, number one, what I recommend when people are feeling increased anxiety or stress is to zoom in. And so that means rather than worrying about what's going to happen next month or next year, or what's the future of our country. You zoom super close in and you just focus on the next 5 minutes, the next 15 minutes, the next 30 minutes, the next 60 minutes. You get really granular with what your focus is. Drink a glass of water, go to bed, brick your phone, eat. Like you just got to bring it down. I've That's what I have always told people to do when they're in crisis, and that's just very grounding.
Yeah.
It
Sounds
slows
like a one foot in front of it, just put one foot in front of the other, right? I mean, small steps.
exactly,
But sometimes
exactly.
you feel paralyzed, right? I think
Oh
what
yeah,
you're talking about is like you're paralyzed by I don't know what to do. There's just so much. There's so much. And I'm just, paralyzed.
exactly. And that's a very understandable, explainable nervous system response when we have too many threats, too
Mhm.
many triggers. We're not able to process them. And so eventually that is like that shutdown and that freeze that happens. And I think that that's happened to many people. So just keeping things more manageable, focusing on just the next thing, that is number one. And number two, is to tend to your nervous system. And so when I was just mentioning about you feel shut down, flooded, or frozen, that's a nervous system response. And our nervous system gets dysregulated when the balance between like safety and threat gets out of whack. And if you are paying attention to the news or you are on social media at any point, you are consuming all of these visual traumas and these visual threats, not to mention if they are happening outside of your door, if
Mhm.
they are in your neighborhood, if they're your next door neighbors, if they're it's your cleaning person, your co-op. I mean, there's so many places that we are experiencing what feels like a sincere threat to safety. We no no matter what, you're not going to be regulated. You're going to go from a happy space in your nervous system where you're able to think clearly, make decisions, plan, strategize, analyze. That's your prefrontal cortex is online. Too many threats come on, and you start moving down your nervous system into fight or flight, feeling irritable, feeling anxious, feeling pressured, feeling rushed, feeling just like charged. If that goes on too long, we go into freeze. And freeze is feeling like it's almost depressing and hopeless. Like you can't move, you can't think, you just freeze, you don't know what to do. And I think many people in this country, particularly many Minnesotans, have worked their way down that ladder, of course, and are in that kind of functional freeze state. So some of the tips I included in my video were there was one very concrete one. I love it. It works. It's the most quick and effective tool I know to reset your nervous system. It's called the basic maneuver. It was developed by Stanley Rosenberg. He's a physical therapist who works with the nervous system and to reset your nervous system. So do you want me to go through it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So basically what you do is you clasp your hands behind your head like this,
Yeah.
and you're going to lay on the floor. So whoever's doing this, you do this maybe at a different time. You're going to lay on the floor. Your chin is going to go up to the sky. And for 30 to 60 seconds, you're going to just with your eyes gaze over to the right. So don't move your chin. Yep. Just your eyes, 30 to 60 seconds until you feel a kind of like a letting go. And then you're going to do 30 to 60 seconds the opposite direction until you feel a softening and a release. And some people feel it immediately. Other people might need to do it a few times, but most people feel kind of like a reset. So that's my number one tool. My second tool is using temperature. That is
Mm.
a so Minnesotans, we are no stranger to the cold. So that right now could be just walking outside.
Walk outside. Yeah.
Yeah, walk outside, breathe the cold air. Cold plunges. Another one is filling a bowl of ice and water, like just fill a bowl up and dunk your face in it. Put your face in it, and that activates the dive reflex, which is like another total body nervous system reset.
I have to
Sometimes
say, I did a cold plunge, or I've done two now, and I was very reticent to do it. I mean, it just terrified me. I do not enjoy being cold. And I did it, and it was the whole hydrotherapy. So you cycled through, you go hot and then extreme cold, and then you let your body come back to normal temperature. It was the most relaxed I have ever been, I think, in my entire life. And I was the biggest skeptic, and I've done it twice now, and I cannot tell you just um, what that does to your body. So I am also a big believer in that.
Yeah, I actually learned it, at least the diving reflex. I worked in kind of eating disorder treatments for a centers for a long time, inpatient settings. So, like, if someone was having a panic attack, that is what we would
Mm,
have them do, and it would snap them back, like bring them back. So it kind of is just this really nice reset. That said, warmth is always also soothing to the nervous system. So a shower with essential oils or a bath with some magnesium salts, or, there's other ways you can kind of use temperature to help your nervous system out as well.
mhm.
I don't think there was anything else I mentioned in the video. That was the first and second thing. The third thing that I mentioned, what was the third thing that I mentioned? um, oh, we all cope differently.
Yeah.
So there can feel like this sense of like, I got to do something. And a way to get out of that freeze, out of feeling paralyzed, is to take some action. But different actions feel available to us based on a lot of different factors,
Mhm.
based on our own trauma history, based on our work situation, our living situation, our own trauma history. Some people are like, put me on the front lines in 20 below. I want to get in there. Like, that's their personality. Someone else is like, that's way too out there for me, but I'm going to donate to the food shelf in my neighborhood. I'm going to,
Mhm.
I'm going to make an impact in a way I feel comfortable. And I think sometimes people can get the message that there's only one appropriate way to help. And if you don't do it in the most out there extreme way, then it does, like, you're not doing anything. And that just, I don't think that's makes things available enough to all of our differences. So it's okay that we're different. It's okay that we show up in different ways, and all of it matters.
I love that. And it makes sense because we're also impacted by what's happening in very different ways too, right?
Exactly.
All this is very individualized, I would say.
Exactly. Exactly. The fourth thing was that I mentioned was having faith. And I didn't mean that in a traditional sense, though I think it's very helpful to lean into faith right now if that is something that you practice. But the way that I was talking about it was to have faith in kind of the intelligence of the universe, which to me means, you think of nature, ecosystems in nature are always trying to balance and counterbalance. They're always working together to kind of have this equilibrium. I've noticed the same thing about people's internal environments. And I think that that is what's going to happen with our collective culture, and country, is that there's this swing in kind of a very harmful direction. I believe that will counterbalance with more inspiration to be kind, to be compassionate, to care more about other people, to kind of lean into these softer aspects of life versus, I think we really have been too far in the other direction of like individualism and kind of like each man for himself. So I really do think that that is, I believe that will happen. I don't know when, but just the faith that something good will come from this suffering is something that sustains me and helps me when it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number four. And the very last thing was, don't be hard on yourself.
I
So
love that one.
yeah, because that is, I mean, that's probably the number one thing I work on with my clients, because it's so foundational to our ability to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
If we are beating ourselves down internally, it feels impossible to do anything. And then we don't do anything, and then we're harder on ourselves, and it's just this vicious cycle. So my last thing was, do not be hard on yourself about how you're struggling, how you're coping, what you're feeling. All of it makes sense.
It's
And
okay not to be okay.
yeah, I mean, who would be okay in this? That is crazy. That is crazy to think that we would just be like, oh, well, it's fine. What's fine? That's like self-gaslighting. Like, of course, we're not okay.
Yeah.
So taking a more validating stance and knowing that if you are more accepting and loving of yourself, that will translate and ripple out to kind and loving interactions with others. I think that it's not just important for us, it's important for everyone around us that we are more gentle with ourselves.
I love that. I think that that rule applies to so many occasions, so many things that happen in our lives. I think as women in particular, we are not kind to ourselves. We are very much our own harshest critic. So I want to kind of use that as a jumping off point into menopause and why. I mean, I feel like as a woman in menopause and I'm on HRT and I've got my hormones mostly under control and my anxiety mostly under control, but I feel like it has ratcheted up and I feel like my cortisol level. So you were talking about fight or flight, that's cortisol, right? And that has a huge impact on a bunch of different things in your body. And I've talked to my girlfriends who are the same age who are also going through menopause and they are feeling it too. So have you heard more from your clients who are kind of in that menopausal, perimenopausal age range who are really feeling it hard? And if not, I mean, does it make sense to you that we are just because of all the other things happening in our bodies at the same time this is going on?
Even if you didn't have the additional hormonal challenges and changes of perimenopause and menopause, and I do have, I have clients who are not yet at that place, and I'm not noticing a difference in what people are saying. That just tells you that the traumatizing events are enough in and of themselves.
Mm,
So just having all of these repeated traumatic experiences, like everybody, it's almost like you become sensitized, it's called. It's
mhm.
like sensitization, where every traumatic event, you're more sensitive than you were the time before.
Interesting.
So when Renee Good was shot, I felt like it was George Floyd all over again in my body. Like that day, I remember that day. I remember how it felt. I remember like where I was. Like I felt like my body was reliving that again.
Mm,
Um, and so I think, that was just my own personal example, but I think that our reactions are getting more extreme, understandably, because we've had so many traumatic events.
mhm.
Now, someone who's going through perimenopause or menopause, I don't like, I hope this is validating, rather than, just like discouraging, but like you're kind of screwed in a way
It's nice.
because hormonally you are losing the things that help you feel tranquil,
Yes.
balanced, um peaceful and buffered. Like you just chemically don't have it, which makes you more cortisol's already higher up. It impacts your HPA access, your stress resilience. Like I feel like you almost have to work 3, 4, or 5 times as hard to stay somewhat like sane, regulated. Like it's almost not even realistic to think that anybody's going to not feel anxious right now. But I do think knowing the unique way that these two experiences are, like they're totally like dovetailing.
Yeah.
You already have all these things that are making you less resilient, and then you have this whole other thing that's just like totally reinforcing that. Is I think that just if women knew that, then
Yeah.
like that's
Maybe we could be
everything.
kinder to ourselves. So maybe we could follow tip 5 a little easier if we said, wait a
Absolutely.
minute, okay, so there's all kinds of stuff going on beyond my control. My body is like the hormones are going crazy. So of course I'm going to be feeling big feelings right now.
Exactly. And like, yeah, it's perimenopause and menopause destabilizes the systems that are intended for us to feel safe and calm.
Hmm.
So, all these threats are hitting a system that's already destabilized. Like that's just an added, really a significantly added challenge.
Yeah.
And but but it's so key then that we not be hard on ourselves if we aren't ourselves right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've found myself really struggling to focus at work. And again, been there already with menopause brain and thought I had it under control. And then here we go again. So I totally hear you. I want to go back though. So it's interesting that you said, we've had multiple years of trauma and you brought up the pandemic because that just reminded me. So I turned 40 during the pandemic, and that's
Mhm.
really when some of my perimenopausal symptoms started, the night sweats, my inability to sleep, all that good stuff. But I experienced the very first panic attack I've ever had in my life, and it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And it
Mhm.
was, I do believe part of it is, like you said, you have your own personal trauma. So for me, my parents both died quite young. My dad at 44, my mom at 55. And so anything health related has always freaked me out. I mean, I'm the hypochondriac who anything that I feel is wrong, I'm in the doctor and I want to know, I don't hide from it. So that for me, because of that family history. Also, my sister had thyroid cancer, so just one thing after another was really hard on me. And so that kind of
Mhm.
started it. And now you're talking about sort of this cumulative effect, especially for us here in Minnesota. And I really never even thought about that. And again, if you're a woman who's my age, for that to coincide with you going through this massive shift in hormones, I mean, that really adds up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think whatever, I mean, there it's stress plus genetics.
Yeah.
Like I think they say genetics loads the gun and stress pulls the trigger. Um,
Mm,
so whatever we were vulnerable to, stress is going to push out the expression of that or intensify the symptoms or maybe push us further down the line in like an expression of illness. So if you were, you know, someone's a recovering alcoholic and then the pandemic hits, or they're a teen with social anxiety, or they're a woman in, making that transition to menopause. It's like whatever your vulnerabilities were, those things were impacted by that giant stress and absolutely impacted because it hasn't stopped. It
mm-hmm.
hasn't stopped. And so but what is wild to me is how we aren't educated about what we can expect from that. What can we expect from the impact of stress? What can we expect hormonally as women? It's more just this kind of implicit expectation that we're just fine all the time. Like we
Yeah.
just keep doing things business as usual. Like that's what seems crazy to me. Not that everyone we know is struggling more in their own unique way. Of course you are. And I think it's wonderful that you're talking about it and bringing more awareness to it so that women talk about it themselves and don't feel like there's something wrong with them. Because if we feel like something's wrong with us, we feel shame, we hide, we
I,
suffer in silence, we don't get the help we need because it's just my own problem.
yeah.
It's just me. So I'm not going to get help because it's just me, right? If we're
Yeah.
all talking about what's happening, then we go, oh, maybe it's not just me and there's really good explanation here. And there's also really good support to help me through.
Exactly. Yep. 100%. That's exactly what I'm hoping to do. And it sounds like your video did that. Sounds like it really took off. How many engagements, how many views did you get on that video?
I think it might be like 78,000 or something at
Oh,
this point, but it's going up all the time.
yeah.
So I'm like, dang, that's amazing. Yeah, it was kind of I mean, like an accident. I don't have like I don't know, but we all need to be speaking from the heart right now. And I think that that is part of what helped. And there's just this universal feeling of this is so much. And what do I do? Like,
Yeah.
I think that that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, you definitely struck a chord, and thank you for recapping all those tips. Thank you for getting a little bit more in depth with me about them. This has been super educational. I'm hoping people will find those who didn't see your video. If they're reading the article, then they'll find some value in those tips and what you had to say. So thank you again for your time. I
Yes, you're
greatly
welcome.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you and hang in there,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yep. Everybody hang in there. Thank you.
Yep.